Stone Village's people felt gloomy and frustrated. There weren't any other methods. The ancestral altar shone. Hairy Ball and Little Red appeared. One lost a portion of its body, the other a pair of wings. They were already severely injured and unable to move freely. However, they still came. These were two deities. This shocked everyone here. We don't have any way either, the two experts became sad. They thought bitterly for some way to cure him, but in the end, they both shook their heads, feeling deeply helpless. There is also a drop of divine wine. It was also obtained from the Kuan Peng nest, said Hairy Ball. It had followed Shahao into the northern sea back then, so he naturally knew these things. Don't use it. Don't waste anything anymore. Shahao shook his head. He deeply understood his own circumstances. He was still carving the Kuan Peng technique. No one could stop him. From time to time, people could hear a light sound from his chest. His supreme being bone was clearly splitting apart. He truly was exhausting his own life. Everyone's expressions became unpleasant to look at, but they couldn't do anything to help him, because this was one of Shahao's final wishes. He gave all of the various things inside the precious interspatial case to Stone Village. He still wanted to leave behind this method. Child, mother is begging you, don't do this to yourself anymore. Qin Yining grabbed his arm, feeling incomparable pain. There was frustration, confusion, pain, and regret. She wanted to save her oldest son, but she feared that her second son might die. That short period of hesitation caused them to miss the best time for implanting the bone. As a mother, she didn't want to lose any of her children. However, this type of decision was just too difficult. This was only human nature. No matter who it was, they would still have no way out. Father, mother, do not blame yourselves, or else I'll feel bad. Everyone will die one day. I feel quite fulfilled right now. Shahao spoke. He didn't want them to feel bad. That day, people continuously came to Stone Country imperial capital wishing to see Shahao off. They all knew that he was going to die soon. The amount that came were many times greater than that of Immortal Mountain. It was packed with people, and they were all discussing among themselves. Only 90% of them were stopped outside the palace. Shahao needed time to rest and slowly pass his final moments. It would be too noisy with all these people around him. Even though they came with good intentions, they couldn't all be allowed in. Inside the palace, only Xiao Tian, Nine-Headed Lion, War King, and Stone Village's people were there. Everyone else was stopped. Finally, an imperial bodyguard reported, the noble ladies from the higher realms Lan Yu, Hong Huang, Shui Yu and the others geniuses come to meet the emperor. Qin Yining stared blankly for a moment, and then she said, invite them in. She thought of the precious technique Hong Huang's clan possessed. They also had a rebirth technique that was related to the phoenix and incredibly powerful. She wanted to disregard all costs to obtain it and use it to save Shahao. Xian Ming, Bai Ji Yu, Lan Yu, Shui Yu and the other sighed with sorrow. When they saw Shahao, they didn't dare believe that the stunning and incomparably powerful little stone actually fell to this state. A pity, truly unfortunate. They shook their heads. Back then, they wanted to rope him in, but this type of thing happened. The little stone fell from the ninth heaven down. These geniuses' thoughts immediately changed. The little stone was definitely going to fall into eternal darkness. Unfortunately, everything failed again. This signified the very end of Shahao's life. There were no other ways left. When dismal clouds weighed down on everyone's minds, Shaziling stood up and walked outwards. Qin Yining was somewhat surprised. She turned around to look at him. Where are you going? Divine Furnace Valley. Shaziling replied. When everyone heard this, they began to carefully think to themselves, but they didn't know what kind of place this was. Zhong Zhong was the only one whose expression changed. He knew that this was a strange place. That mountain valley was like a divine furnace. It was incomparably sinister, with many irregular things inside. That day, Stone Country began to make preparations. They knew that Shahao didn't have long to live, so they allowed the experts of various sects in, carrying out a final ceremony for him. When news of this got out, the entire world was shaken. This meant that the little stone might die at any time. His life had reached its critical point. He was going to completely disappear. The 8 regions were shaken. Ocean Clan also learned of this, and many experts hurried over to Stone Capital. This meant that there was no way at all to redeem the situation. The War King stopped Shaziling and his wife. They were extremely sad. If not for being forced to this state where they truly had no choice left, why would they even think about believing such an odd legend? Father, mother, being together with you two in my final moments already makes me extremely happy, said Shahao. That night, Zhong frowned. He predicted that Shahao might only be able to live one more day. There wasn't any other hope. Village Chief Shi Yunfeng's voice was trembling. He wanted to bring Shahao back to satisfy his final wish. Let's wait a bit more. Let me say my farewells to everyone. After returning to Stone Village, I won't come back out again. Shahao said softly. Shahao met many people, including the sect masters of various sects. He nodded towards each of them, thanking them for coming here to send their farewells. This night was, without a doubt, a grand occasion. Only, everything happened in a silent manner. Older brother, do you hate me? Qin Hao asked. How could I hate you? We are brothers. Shahao calmly said. I want to become stronger, becoming the #1 expert of the heavens. I will properly take care of father and mother. This time, I wasn't able to save you, Qin Hao said softly. It was my own fate that is about to end. How can it be blamed on you? Shahao shook his head. When Shahao said this, he seemed to have thought of something. He didn't reply to his words and instead said, even though I did everything I could, I was only able to carve out half of the Kuan Peng technique. I will leave it with Stone Clan. Qin Hao didn't say anything and only nodded. For a long time, there was no sound in the spacious great palace. It was extremely quiet. The two sank into a state of silence. Only after a long time had passed did Shahao open his mouth and say, do you think that if one person had 2 supreme being bones, they will be able to become #1 under heaven? Who would be able to rival that? Qin Hao asked in response. When you brought up that topic, I remembered the higher realms. There are actually more than a single exceptional talent. Perhaps there are also people who obtain 2 bones, Shahao said. Qin Hao was stunned. He had never heard of this before. This was definitely astonishing. Your Majesty. Several old kings all looked at him. I am going to give my supreme being bone to my younger brother. Please protect us during this process. Shahao said. He feared that others would misunderstand, so he called them over to explain. What? Your Majesty, you cannot. These people were all shocked. Older brother Qin Hao also opened his mouth, not knowing what to say. You don't need to say too much. Shahao was always a decisive person. Even in his weakest state, he was also like this. Divine radiance shot out from his pupils, making it hard for everyone here to speak. Hao, my Hao, don't die. How could it be like this? Mother has let you down. She hugged Shahao, her body trembling and struggling to stand up. She thought about everything that had happened, about everything that occurred during all these years. Her heart was full of pain and incomparable regret. She had missed too much, not being at her oldest son's side the entire time. In the end, he was going to die just like that. Blood flowed out from Shahao's chest. He was about to die. He also felt extremely emotional, unwilling to let all of this go. He comforted his parents, telling them not to feel bad. Hao, don't leave mother, don't die please don't. Qin Yining's face was full of tears. Back then, she didn't properly take care of Shahao. He was still so young, when he had his supreme being bone gouged out from him in martial imperial manner. He had endured too much suffering. Where is the supreme being bone? Return it, hurry help Hao take it in, don't let him die Qin Yining wailed. She felt as if her heart was tearing and her lungs splitting apart. How could it be like this? Her oldest son didn't transplant the immortal bone, and instead gave his own supreme being bone away. How miserable was this, it is already too late. Stone Emperor doesn't have enough supreme being blood within him, so he won't be able to nourish the blood. After leaving his body, it would be useless even if it was reattached to his body, Zhong said. It was mother who was wrong, because of my hesitation, we missed the chance to transplant the bone. Qin Yining grabbed him while sobbing loudly. She was full of remorse. She didn't want her older son to die, but she feared her second son becoming injured as well. She was always hesitating, and in the end, the chance slipped away. It was now useless even if they transplanted the immortal bone now. Mother, don't blame yourself. How can it be your fault? How can I ask for my younger brother's bone? I won't agree to such a thing. How can we gamble with his life? I personally experienced these things, and won't have him suffer the same pain I've gone through. Shahao said softly. Blood flowed out from the corners of his lips. His face became more and more pale. Father, don't say any more. Doing this will only make me feel worse. It truly isn't you two's fault. Shahao felt his nose becoming sore. He didn't blame these two. The first reason was because he definitely didn't want that bone, and the second was that he had also thought to himself that if he had two children and had to make this decision, what would he do? That would definitely fill him with suffering. Father, mother, all of this truly can't be blame on you guys. Give that bone to little brother. This is the same as a continuation of my life, one that will accompany you by your side. When they heard these words, the husband and wife felt even more grieved inside. Tears continuously flowed out. Shi Xiling howled. His head of black hair flew about chaotically like a demon. His hair fell onto the ground. Divine light erupted from his eyes as he said, Big brother. Qin Hao stood at his side, calling out to him. Live properly, cherish everything you have. Take care of father and mother. Shahao nodded and said peacefully. I will become the most powerful person and protect them. Qin Hao said. Shahao looked at Zhong Zhong and said, Great doctor, do you have certainty in safely granting him the bone? Zhong Zhong nodded. If it was a normal person, then it definitely wouldn't be possible and incredibly dangerous, but it shouldn't be a problem with your majesty's brother. Shahao frowned and said, even though it is a supreme being bone, it is far greater than other bones and flesh. There are some traces of curses on its surface, so you definitely have to be careful. This isn't a problem. Your majesty's brother has a perfect immortal bone that can wipe out the few symbols, said Zhong Zhong. Then hurry and carry out the operation. Shahao said. Let's wait a bit. Shahao shook his head. He wanted to see if that bone could successfully be reborn. Little big bro, Qing Feng wept. His large eyes were completely red. Back then, it was Shahao who brought him to Stone Village, yet they were going to separate like this, never to meet again. Shahao sighed. He had also thought about giving the bone to Qing Feng, but he didn't have supreme being blood in him, so rashly proceeding might result in his death. In addition, he might even be cursed. Success. Let's go. Shahao said softly. The ancestral altar shone, opening up a path. Stone Village's people traveled in the night, bringing Shahao home. When news got out, Stone Country capital was greatly shaken. Farewell, Stone Emperor. The voices rumbled like thunder. Many experts shouted together, shaking the sky and making the entire capital city tremble. The little stone left. This also meant that he would leave this world of mortals, never to see it again. Farewell, Stone Emperor. These voices rushed into the heavens, resounding through the night sky. Everyone shouted together, shaking heaven and earth. Everyone bid their farewells together. Sectmaster, giants of their regions, and powerful individuals appeared. This was a rare sight that had not been seen for many years. This is the place. Shahao said softly. At the same time, his face lost color and his eyes gradually grew dim. His vitality that was forcefully keeping him up weakened. His life had finally reached its end. No. Hao, don't leave us. Everyone cried out and threw themselves forward. Hao, wake up. You cannot close your eyes. Child, you have to hold on. You have just returned and didn't even get a good look at Stone Village yet. How can you just leave like this? You have to live. Heart-tearing, lung-splitting cries sounded. Sad and bleak words sounded. Everyone threw themselves forward, carrying him in their arms. They poured divine force into his body as a final act of keeping him in this world. Actually, I don't want to leave you guys either to leave like this. I am already extremely satisfied. Shahao's eyes grew dim, losing expression. Little Hao, we won't let you leave. Pihu felt incredibly anxious. You have to live, don't die, Erming muttered. He didn't know what to say, and could only continuously repeat himself. Shahao's eyes didn't have any luster left, as if he was a candle that had gone out with the wind. He was about to go out. His life force was scattering away. He was going to disappear from this world forever. Shaziling was on one side, and Qin Yining was on the other. They both grabbed his arm to somehow keep him here, but they were powerless, unable to reverse the situation. The silver peaches are here. Feed them to him and help Hao refine them. An elder roared loudly. Right now, Shahao's eyes were about to close. They were extremely dark. He already couldn't see much anymore. Shahao's body was shining. Every inch of his flesh was surging with multicolored mist that wrapped around his body. The wine left behind by the Kuan-Peng was not ordinary after all. However, Shahao's eyes remained closed, and his life force didn't recover. It seemed to have been severed from his body with no sign of improving. This made everyone incredibly nervous. None of them could stand still. Along with the passage of time, Shahao's body released a wine fragrance. Hazy mist flowed about the surface of his body, as if he was sound asleep from drinking too much. Unfortunately, his breathing seemed to stop, which made everyone incredibly worried. Time seemed to be stretched extremely long. After an unknown amount of time passed, a few children whose cultivation weren't high enough already fell asleep from the alcoholic scent, collapsing here. It was clear how odd this wine was. It possessed unordinary effects. What a pity it is. In the end, it was still unable to defy the heavens. Little Red sighed. It and Hairy Ball had ignited their divine flames, so their eyes were naturally powerful. They both couldn't help but shake their heads. He should be able to revive and stay awake for a short period of time. However, it won't change anything. It is still just wine that the Kuan-Peng left behind and not some life-saving pill medicine. Hairy Ball said. When everyone heard this, their faces became deathly pale. A while later, Shahao's breathing became a bit more stable, and he finally opened his eyes. He looked around blankly, stirring up cries of alarm. I've made you all worried again. He weakly opened his mouth. Regardless of whether it was him or everyone else, they all knew that there wasn't much time left. Finally, everyone came to the head of the village. Shahao sat there, looking at the small pot inside the courtyard. He began to laugh. Everyone else all began to smile in memory again, recalling how he was back then, always coming here early in the morning to sneakily cook beast milk so that no one else would find out. What a pity. Willow deity has left. Shahao sighed softly. He wanted to go to the higher realms and compete with those exceptional talents and heavenly geniuses, and he also wanted to go to the mysterious area to search for Willow deity. However, in the end, he would never have the chance. Everyone became silent. If the Willow deity was still here, everything could probably be changed, right? How would it have ended like this? When they saw the spiritual medicines, silver peach tree, and arctadic treasure chicken, everyone felt deeply emotional. Back then, Shahao was still little, yet he continuously brought things back to the village. He was a little adult that always thought about his home. He was still young, but because of him, Stone Village had already undergone so many transformations. Little Uncle Hao, you have to live. Nothing bad will happen. A little child pulled at the corners of his clothes while saying with his head raised. Tears filled his eyes. For them, Shahao was their best uncle. Every time he returned, he would always bring them into the great wasteland to run around. They could steal from vicious bird nests and catch fierce beasts, satisfying all of their dreams. In their hearts, Shahao was the most powerful. No one could compare to him. However, he was going to die today. Every single child was shedding tears. Shahao gently caressed these children's heads. When he saw them, he thought of his own past. He smiled but didn't say anything. Yu Chan stood in the distance. She didn't leave Stone Village yet. Her emotions were complex. After she learned about everything, she could only sigh. That evil mother-in-law had even asked her if there was a way to save him. However, even if she helped, it was useless. The main body cultivation method required too much time. Shahao wouldn't last that long at all. He didn't have that much time. Big Peng, Little Green, and Purple Cloud rushed up. They continuously rubbed their heads against Shahao's body. Their eyes carried tears. They all knew what happened, making them filled with reluctance. You guys have to protect Stone Village well. Don't fly off too far, okay? Shahao warned. The three vicious birds earnestly nodded their heads. Tears erupted from their eyes. Not far away, a unicorn also ran over. It was Little White, a creature with the potential to become a heavenly horse. It was entirely pure white, and there was a pair of wings on its back. It continuously ran around Shahao while crying out. The red sun set, the setting sun looking like the color of blood. It was clearly a bleak color. Half the sky became a bloody red. That night, all of Stone Village was filled with sadness. Sounds of weeping fell endlessly. In the end, they were still helpless in reversing the heavens. The second day, the multicolored light of sunrise was still as brilliant as before. However, Shahao had already become completely silent. Everyone placed him into a coffin, raising him to that hill, burying him as he wished. A grave appeared here, one that faced Stone Village. Here, he could see Stone Village, see the villagers and forever be together with them. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.